Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of Pitch Us. We have a great entrepreneur here going to be sharing what they're up to. My name's Tim Cooley, the author of the Pitch Deck book. We're here really to help people really present their businesses better so that investors can actually hear what they're saying. Having raised capital before, it can be challenging, especially if you're not communicating properly. Usually we're joined by Jeff Erickson of Forecaster. So if you're looking for help with the forecasting part of your pitch deck, please check them out. And with that being said, Justin, why don't you go ahead and, share your screen and start whenever you're ready.
Great. Thank you, Tim. Can you see my screen okay? I think I'm sharing.
Yep.
Perfect. So my name is Justin Ford. I'm one of the founders of Javelin Sports, and we built a marketplace that makes it easier to play sports. So the problem we're trying to solve is that there are over 75 million American adults that aren't playing sports as much as they want to because they either can't find people to play with, time to play, or places to play. So those are the three main problems we're trying to tackle. So we built a mobile app that helps players match with other nearby players based on sport, skill level, location, join or create a team. So you can think of right now a lot of teams, for example, will use a messenger chat group, for example, a WhatsApp chat group. So we built that all out in the Javelin app so you can schedule events. And then finally, we help these teams book places to play. And that's really the marketplace component of our product. And that's where we make money. So looking at timing, this report was released in, I want to say it was March 7th. So it's pretty new. That essentially just says the global recreation industry is expected to grow by 54% this year to a $1.4 trillion valuation. So a lot of the experts in this industry are expecting people to start going out and doing things again as the industry recovers from the pandemic. Looking more kind of at our immediate valuation and why this really matters is we are really in the participatory sports market, which is a $279 billion market. That's how much people spend globally to play sports each year. A bottom-up SOM for us gives us about a $200 million market size. So our business model, once again, is helping players book courts or fields or rinks in their area. We are essentially like open table for sports facilities. So we process these bookings. We have a 10% take rate for facilities that we're working with. And looking at this, our unit economics for a $70 booking, assuming we can cover 10% of peak hours and 20% of off-peak hours in a facility, we make about $10,000 annually per court. So we have built out a pretty cool platform that has a lot of network effects built in, and we've managed to get some pretty solid traction so far with this platform. So we have over 30,000 players. We have over 1,500 teams. We have over 6,000 matches. And probably my favorite one is that we have 230,000 hours of events attended by Javelin players. Taking a quick look at the landscape. So one thing that we try to do differently is that we are very player focused. So we come in at the level of helping players play, whereas most of the competitors that we're up against are things like a facility management platform or things like a group communication tool. So they're either really heavily tailored or catered to a sports facility like a court or a field, or on the flip side, there's something that's very general, that's not tailored to sports at all. Like once again, Meetup, for example. So here's what our go-to-market strategy is. This is what we're doing right now. We have kind of the short-term and the long-term view for this. Our go-to-market is actually organizing pickup volleyball games. So one pickup volleyball game brings in about $100, $100 or $210 per week for us. Annually, this is $10,000 in revenue, once again, from a single pickup volleyball game. We currently have a number of these set up in Toronto. We're targeting for each city that we work with one game per every day of the week. So that's $70,000 per city. Now, there are over 19,000 cities in North America. So assuming we can set up an active pickup volleyball community in each of, let's say 10% of these cities, that actually gives us an over $100 million in revenue just through pickup volleyball alone. Here's a quick look at the founding team. So for myself, I have a background in finance, and I was also a ski instructor for 8 years, which was really kind of how I learned about the sports industry. My co-founder, Coleman, he is one of the initial founders of the Flaming Kitchen restaurant chain, which has 3 locations in Toronto, but he wanted to work on something a little bit bigger. And since he and I both loved playing sports growing up, we started working together. We're actually both high school MVPs, so we have a bit of the washed up athlete energy in us. And then we have a really great advisory team behind us. So Darren Raby is an amazing sales entrepreneur who has helped us a lot with setting up all of our sales processes to acquire more facilities. And Donovan Bailey, for those of you who know him, he is an Olympic champion in the 100-meter sprint. So we are currently raising $2.5 million for 16 months. We are raising this money to obtain more facility listings. So right now, the big problem that we're facing is facilities want to use our platform. We have an 11% cold outreach to close rate with facilities. Now that is absurdly good. And it's due to, once again, this amazing sales process we've set up. And on the other hand, it's also due to the fact that the number of open facilities in the US declined from 41,000 to 32,000 over the past 2 years. And they're starting to scale up again. So we have all these new facilities coming out that don't have any ways of getting players. And that's why they're starting to work with us. On the flip side, from the player's perspective, we see incredible retention rates for people who actually go in and are booking our events. Usually our 4-week retention cohort for bookings is above 80, almost 90%. The lowest it's ever been has been 70%. So essentially our ideal capital partner is someone who can help us list more facilities, build out our amazing team, provide any connections within the sports industry, support our brand, or help us with distribution. And I think that's everything. I guess I can open the floor.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about, walk me through, why is a facility buying you guys? How does that work? Are they paying you? Like, what's the partnership look like?
Definitely. So we can do a really low, I guess we try to reduce our barriers to entry as much as possible. So our cold outreach to facilities, we start off just asking what their court booking process is. We usually get a response with that. We ask them if they have any availability. We can list it and help our pickup players book it. Once again, I mean, that sells itself pretty easily to the facilities. We charge, once again, just a take rate. So we don't charge a monthly fee. We just charge a take rate when we actually get a booking. That aligns our incentives very well with both our players and the facilities, and then it makes it no risk for the facilities to sign up with us. There is one issue that we are working with right now. This is our biggest problem, is that there is a double booking problem in sports. And that's that, let's say it's the idea of 2 groups booking the same hour of court time. And then they both show up on the same day. And I mean, there's only one court, so they both can't play. We are currently finding that as our biggest challenge to scale right now is solving the double booking problem. So what we've been doing is reaching out to the sports facility management companies. So there's all these software companies that do the facility management for these courts or fields. And we're building out APIs with a number of different ones so that we can instantly list and instantly update all of their courts availability. We're currently talking to, I think, 6 of these companies.
Okay. And then what's current revenue to date?
So we launched this on, it was January 31st. So our first month, February, was $150 in revenue. Our second month was $450. And then this past week was $500 in revenue. I don't know the full month revenue yet, though. We're
okay.
recording this near the end of April.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. Okay. So I have a whole lot of questions, but I kind of want to get to, really facilitating how we can help make this a better presentation, give you some good feedback and some bad feedback, or things to work on, I should say.
Definitely.
And so first off, let's talk about some of the good things. I think you guys have some really good traction. And with that being said, I think that it could be presented better. A lot of people don't look at revenue as or they look at small revenue amounts as not traction, but it's actually good that people are willing to pay for it. So congratulations on that. It's hard to get people to take out their credit card and swipe it. You know what I'm saying?
No, thank you. It's it's a testament to kind of the work my team's been putting in. We're actually on track by the end of the month to hit 600 weekly revenue. So I'm really proud of what they're doing, and I mean, we have pretty ambitious goals, but obviously you got to start from somewhere. So I'm honestly teetering on the edge of, should I put like $150 on here as revenue, or should I leave that off?
Yeah, no, that's great. In my opinion, I think you should. And again, you've only been live for a little bit, and you're talking about a volume play, not a like you're not doing $25,000 checks, right? You're doing like $7 checks, so that's pretty solid. I think it's worth mentioning. Yeah, so just some, well, this will come back as feedback, good and bad at the same time. But one thing is, I would suggest maybe doing a different color background. This orange on black is actually kind of hard to see.
Oh, you know what? I use a blue light blocker.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I can turn that off. I completely forgot I had it on.
What color is it supposed to be?
White. White and blue. So that should.
Oh, okay. There you go. Yeah, sweet. That's much better. Way easier to see. Okay.
Oh, I accidentally turned it back on. Sorry.
That's okay. That's pretty impressive, though.
Yeah, it's to protect my eyes from sitting in front of a screen all the time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So yeah, let's go through this a little bit. So one thing that I would recommend is you kind of put your market slide right after you talk about let's go back a little bit further. I would have loved to know your background a little bit and why you decided to go into this space. So a little bit about you and like what problems you saw in the world from your perspective. Not just there are these problems in the world, but like how did Justin find out about these? I'm an avid volleyball player, so I I recognize where you're coming from, but it would have been nice to hear your point of view. The second thing that I would have loved to have seen is get to the revenue numbers sooner. So you say like, I learned about these problems. I built this product in order to solve those problems, and then this is how we make money. So because you jumped straight into this $279 billion participating sports thing, I don't have any context of how you fit into that because I don't have a revenue number.
Okay, yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So that does make sense, yeah.
Yep. So let's stay back on that slide that you were just on. So it's really common, and a lot of people do this, where they talk about the entire market of how much money is spent on, like in this case, you did probably like athleisure sports or social sports, right?
Yeah.
So
this includes things like golf and skiing as well.
Correct. Yeah. So one of the things that would be better actually is if you would have said how big the market is on like software that facilitates that space. Maybe that's the 7 billion, but I would have loved to have known like, yeah, because a person who's like buying, like I pay for 6-week group things, that's part of that 13 billion, but
so,
I'm not really, does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. It's essentially the facility management software space.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
That is about, I think it's 87 billion.
So that's what I would have liked to see, because you're more in that. You're taking a fraction of that market in a way. Even though you have to be really careful with this because the facility managers and the facilities aren't your customers, but it is facilitating because you're helping them make money, I would assume.
Yeah. So the problem with the facility management software market is that includes gyms, which are a big market that we don't touch.
Yeah. But you could, right? Like there could be a model. And again, this is the TAM, right? Anybody could use this product, and it should be reflective.
It's funny. We actually, to give a bit more background, we used to help sports clubs and leagues with health screening. That was how we made it through the pandemic. So
interesting.
During that time period, built out kind of like almost like a Craigslist or Yellow Pages type listing within our app, where any facility or any club or league we work with can get listed. So one of the long-term goals we have is to also start letting people purchase a season with a league directly through Javelin. And I think I was trying to capture that in the TAM as well.
Yep.
Because I think that's a pretty big market as well. In fact, the youth sports market in the United States is 20 billion alone.
Yeah, it's massive. Yeah, so some other things that I would do is make your font a little bit bigger. I'm trying to scan this as you're talking, and like this is kind of like a 30-second slide, really. And I don't have enough time to read everything because you're really wanting me to focus on the song. So that's one area I would add to all the slides. It's just make the font like no less than 22 is my recommendation.
Yep.
There's this theory out there where you take the oldest person in the room, divide their age by 2, and that's the smallest font that you should do. So since I'm 42, it could be 21, right? And so something to think about.
No, I like it.
Yeah, but otherwise, I mean, it was a really good presentation overall. I would love to see a kind of a mapped out version of the use case, right? So like you talked about how you have this 11% close. Like walk me through that entire, like we reach out to these people because we're on their platform, they talk about their people, and then this is how the customer who ends up paying us signs up. So I think
I really want to talk about that. That's why I bring it up.
Yeah.
So I'd love to jump into that if you are interested in
engaging me. Yeah, I'd love to hear, because I think that's something that's missing from here is like I don't really get how it works.
Definitely. So we find a court in an area that we're looking to target. Once again, volleyball is the easiest one to start off with because people tend to be kind of price sensitive for something like basketball. Whereas with volleyball, I'm sure as you're aware as a player, game quality is really important. You kind of need to know that there's this minimum quality or this minimum skill level that everyone has, and how we kind of help ensure that is by having our games have a price. So we reach out primarily to volleyball organizations and just say, hey, I'm looking to speak to someone about your bookings. We usually get a response very quickly about that because, that's what they're in the business of doing. We give them a call right away and just say, hey, we're a pickup sports app. We have a bunch of players who are begging us to add more facilities to our platform. And that is true. We do get messages all the time of players asking us to add more courts. We would love to chat to you to see if there's any ways we could list some of your availability on our platform and let our players book it. We book a call through that. We sit down and then this final call, we essentially have a 100% close rate on where we just tell them any availability you have, we'd love to list it. We don't charge you anything to list. We take, a percentage fee when we get you a booking. So it's just an additional revenue play for you, and you get more kind of some marketing benefits by being listed on our platform. So yeah, I mean, perfect. That's the whole process.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that even if you were to reverse engineer that and start with that as your problem statements, like, some courts don't have all their bookings. People can't find them. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if you mentioned that. I didn't write that down if you did. But I love that the solution's pretty simple, and it makes sense why you have such a high close rate, because it's like, why wouldn't they? Right. Yeah. Are you doing indoor courts, or are you doing sand courts, or are you doing like municipal courts? Like what courts are there?
We prioritize indoor private courts. So if I look at here, so there's about 570 indoor courts in Toronto. That's the city I'm from. So that kind of gives us a proxy of about one, we say sports facility, but it's essentially one court for every 17,000 people. And then we use that to kind of project out how many courts we have in North America. So there are definitely a lot of courts out there. And yeah, that's our big focus initially.
Okay. And then last piece of feedback is there are two, I'm going to call them competitors because they're similar in concept. Is there's a tennis one out there that's advertising all over the place.
Play your court.
Yep, there's that, guys. And then there's a social group that's called Spark for Golf. That's not necessarily the same thing, but has like a similar type of sounds like an opportunity. So I think mentioning those in your competitive would also just bring, I would say, more credibility to the landscape of what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could probably add player court. I know, especially in San Francisco, and that's where we're raising from. I know player court's pretty big.
Yeah, it's big in Utah too. I get their ads all the time.
I've seen them in Toronto.
Yeah, they're big. I don't know how much money they raised, but they're everywhere. Well, so to wrap up, the question is, would I take you into due diligence based off of what I heard today? The answer, to be honest, is actually no. I'd love for you to get a little bit more traction and clean up some of these things. I want to see you have the revenue. That's good. But I think there's just some elements missing here that shows really that. I don't know how the product worked, and based off the presentation. The clarification afterwards was great, but if we're just judging the presentation alone, there just wasn't enough information for me to say, I hear what you guys are doing. I know how this works, and I see how it fits into my market or into my investment thesis. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I hope the feedback helped. I really like the market that you're playing in. I think just cleaning these things up would give it me as an investor, if I only heard this one time, that, we need to take a little bit deeper dive into what's happening.
Definitely. No, I can probably jump on that, Tim.
Cool. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Justin, for joining us on Pitch Us. And, if you need help with the deck, please let me know. I'd love to help you further. As well as, if you need help on those financials, please reach out to Forecaster. And, we'll talk to you soon.
Definitely. Thanks for having me, Tim.
Absolutely.